All right, I'd like to welcome you to this edition of In the Conference Room with Mark S. Lee. I am Mark S. Lee, your host, and we do this each and every single week where we talk to business leaders from across the great state of Detroit, the state of Michigan, as well as across the country. I want to thank you all for your support. And we've been doing this for a long time, and I appreciate that. Of course, you see me here and across other media platforms on TV and radio here, the great city of Detroit. And today is no exception. We're going to be talking about small businesses and a discussion that took place recently within city council and the city to really talk about how to cut red tape. And there's a proposal that's been discussed. And so I'm so pleased to welcome Miss Amanda Elias, and she's the deputy group executive for neighborhood economic development for the city. Amanda, thank you very much for joining me in the conference room. How are you?
Of course, I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well. Are you adjusting to the warm weather finally?
I walked into work today and I'm like, oh, it's getting kind of steamy outside. I don't know if I can keep doing this. But yeah, it's nice,
We're
I
all
guess.
confused. We're all confused. We're all confused.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad you joined me. Thank you very much. When you and I were chatting, I've been talking about entrepreneurship in Detroit for 10, 15 years. I've written about it for Crane's Detroit Business, and my other platforms. And so when I saw the press release recently, it caught my attention in terms of really cutting red tape for small businesses as relates to the city. I want to turn it over to you to kind of give us an overview of what was recently discussed at the latter part of May and what the primary objectives are of this proposal on the table.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. And thank you again for having me.
Sure.
What you guys have heard or what you heard last month is exactly what's in the title. We are making it easier to start a business in the city of Detroit. Not a lot of people know this, but over the last, I'd say, decade, we've been working on making incremental changes that brought us to this very point. So we went in and we looked at the tax abatement process and tried to reduce the amount of time it took folks to get a tax abatement. We looked at just the internal city departments and what their process was to review a permit or review a license. And we made these small incremental changes without touching policy. And we're at the point where we need to touch policy and we need to touch technology and we need to bring more help in. So the package is made up of three things. And the three kind of larger categories, and I'll go into detail on what each one is, are one, we are cutting city licensing requirements that create unnecessary red tape. We're removing barriers to small businesses and small developers in the zoning code, and we are improving city permitting and licensing process and helping small businesses navigate them. So what does that mean? One, right now, if you are a restaurant or if you want to open a restaurant in the city of Detroit, you've got to one, get a building permit to build out the space. Then you have to go get a city business license. And then you also have to get a state business license. The nice thing is that the city health department facilitates that state license, but there are, different sets of inspections that have to happen for both. And we said, well, that's dumb. Why are we having, the same inspection happen for two different licenses? We should have the state license prevail, and that should just trump the city license. And so the city license is really unnecessary. And so we are getting rid of that. And I'm sure you can imagine restaurants are thrilled about that. And then for everyone else, so in the city, not every type of business requires a business license, but for those that do, we're getting rid of the restaurant one. And for the remaining businesses that require a license, we are extending the duration of their business license from 1 year to 2 years. Because what we heard was that, the city's process is so complicated that by the time I'm done getting my business license, I'm enjoying it for 2 months and then I'm turning around, starting the process all over again. And so, that was really a burden on our small businesses, especially for those that can't afford, to hire help. And so we're giving them a little bit of relief by extending the duration of that license to 2 years. And then
And
the
that's not
second,
what, and real quick, excuse me to interrupt. And that's not just for restaurants, that's for all businesses across the city.
yeah, because restaurants, remember, will eliminate the city business license. So they
Got
will
it.
no longer need to do that. But for everyone else, so think, gas stations, think food trucks, their business license duration will go to 2 years.
Okay. I interrupted. Go ahead.
No, no, you're good. The second thing that we're doing is we're removing barriers. So, and I'm not going to get into too much detail because this is still early on, but we're working on some policy amendments and technology changes. So, the I don't know if you know this, but if you've ever tried to open a business in the city of Detroit or apply for a building permit to do any sort of renovations in the city of Detroit, you've got to navigate our portal.
Mhm.
And there's a different portal for every department. And so we're working on trying to consolidate that and create a more user-friendly system that provides transparency and more predictability. And so we're in the early stages of that, but working with all the different departments to try to consolidate this very disparate system that we have with all of the different tech systems across the board. The third thing that we're doing is probably my favorite, is right now my team, and I didn't really talk about my team, but Mayor Duggan almost 2 years ago, asked me to lead this team, the Neighborhood Economic Development Team. And where he got this idea is, he goes out to all these ribbon cuttings, he goes out to all these events, and he keeps hearing from people that it's so hard to do business in the city of Detroit, that, they
Mhm.
need help with the water department, they need help with the buildings department, that, DPW is so hard to understand and no one's answering their phone, whatever it is, right? And so the mayor said, we give this kind of white glove service to the big guys when we're trying to attract, hundreds of jobs here. Why can't we do that for the little guy? Why can't we do that for, the guys in Southwest Detroit that are trying to renovate some single family homes to, make a living? And so he created my team and he said, your sole job, this is verbatim what he said to me, is to spoil businesses. And he says this to businesses when he meets them. It's Amanda's job to spoil you. It's Amanda's job to give you this white glove service to help you
Awesome.
through the process, right? Because we're talking about, a coffee shop that signs a lease with a landlord and has to be in there at a certain date. They don't get their building permit and, they still have to pay rent. And so
Yeah.
that's for a small coffee shop that can't afford to hire a consultant, opening your doors with being in the negative is a big deal. That makes or breaks your business. And so, what we are doing under the proposed new package, making it easier to start a business, is we are expanding that team. So, right now, my team is a
Awesome.
team of three really doing that work. We are hiring 4 to 5 more people. That's part of this. We're calling it the concierge team, that will act as your internal advocate, your internal champion to help you through
Mhm.
permitting and licensing. And so we're super excited about that. Council President Mary Sheffield put some money in the budget for us to stand that team up. And so we'll be hiring for that come the start of the fiscal year in July. And yeah, I'm looking forward to businesses having their own champion here.
Well, we've been here, we've been here for years about how, like you said earlier, it's a challenge to at least the perception. There's a challenge to do business with the city, the bureaucracy. You're never sure which way to turn, the portals and things like that. Was that the primary driving force behind this proposal, this initiative, is to make sure that the city is, like, I love what you just said, that white glove treatment. Was that the driving force in terms of making these proposals, these changes?
Yeah, I mean, you said it, right? That's exactly right. The driving force is what we have heard, especially, over the years. All we have heard is you've lost my business to Ferndale because it was
Mm.
impossible for me to get through your permitting process. Or I just gave up because I couldn't get through it and now I'm operating without a business license. And so we looked at that and we were like, okay, again, we made these incremental changes over the years, but everything has led us to this point. We did everything we could without touching policy or technology, and we're at the point where now we've got to focus on the technology and consolidating that and providing a more user-friendly system, and then digging into the policy. That's really the next step in this journey that we're on, to make the city more user-friendly, and that's what you guys are seeing right now.
And that's gonna be my next question, the process. So this came out of council back in May. Well, this I saw the announcement back in May. So exactly where are you? Is this city council being debated, negotiated? Is a proposal being put on the table for voting? Exactly what is the
Yeah.
process and the next steps in terms of making this happen?
Yeah, so okay, where it's at is we did the work. We put out a draft of the amendments that we wanted to do. But we know better, so we briefed the city council before we put this in front of them, and we got a lot of excitement out of the city council. Thankfully, our council president Mary Sheffield sponsored the legislation. We worked closely with her team to make sure that this was something that they were hearing as well, and we didn't just make it up, and that this was something that was really going to benefit the businesses and Detroiters alike in the city. And so thankful for her support. Also grateful for Council Member Coleman Young and Council Member Fred Durhal to co-sponsoring the legislation. And so right now we've submitted the ordinance to be introduced. So it's sitting in the planning or the Public Health and Safety Committee,
Mhm. Mhm.
actually being heard next Monday to set a public hearing. The public hearing will happen as soon as the chair, Councilmember Gabriela Santiago Romero, decides to set the hearing. And then after the public hearing is heard, it'll go back to the full body for a vote, and then it'll be enacted. So
Wow.
yeah, super excited. We're
Is this on the
optimistic.
fast track, or is this on the accelerated track on the Dodge Freeway? Or
I wish, I wish. Cross your fingers.
I mean, I think, as you and I were chatting before we had this conversation today, just before this interview, um, I think this is awesome news because I think, I hear it all the time from people. And again, we've been talking about this 15 years, 10 years, in terms of just people coming to me and say, hey, what's the city doing to address some of these challenges? And so I think it's awesome as the city has a lot of momentum right now. We know that there's a lot of pent-up demand, I would think, in terms of people wanting to open up a business in the city. We see it through Motor City Match, obviously, that the city has amongst other programs. When you share this, let's say with businesses, where I'm going by comment, the excitement of my comment, what has been their response to people that you reached out to with this idea, with this proposal? What are the local businesses saying to you right now about this idea?
Yeah, so I think for restaurants, it's a given, right? Restaurants are super happy that they don't have to go through this duplicate process. And then for everyone else that requires a business license, they're super happy that they don't have to go through this crazy complex process
Mm.
every year, right? So they're super happy. But what I'm hearing the most is that they are grateful and excited for having this internal champion,
Yeah,
this someone that is on their side. That is what I'm hearing people are the most excited about, right? Because there are so many, and it happens more often than you think, where a department is disagreeing with another department, and you feel like you're not heard, right? You feel like, well, my
yeah.
business doesn't fit in this circle, right? You're trying to fit a square in a circle, and it's just not happening. So how do I resolve this? There's a lot of conflict resolution that needs to
Hmm.
happen, right? And we're a big city, right? It's
Right.
not always the smoothest process, or you're not always getting the customer service that you'd like. But that is why we are hiring this team, where their
That's
sole
awesome.
objective is to be your cheerleader. And that is what people are talking about.
And how can people track, as we wrap up, how can people track the progress of this or get more information? What website would you send them to?
So we haven't stood up a website yet. We're in the process of standing up an email where folks can email to try to, find out more information, the status of it. Obviously, tune into City Council to hear the progress of the public hearing and the ordinance as it moves through the body. Like I said, it will be just in council as a line item next Monday to set the
Yeah.
public hearing, and then the agenda will come out for when the actual public hearing gets set. But we're in the process of setting up, it's still very early, so bear with us, please, a website, an email, and then we're hoping to have the concierge team hired and set up by, I would say, August.
Okay. Well, Amanda, Elias, I want to thank you, Deputy Group Executive for Neighborhood Economic Development. Again, I think it's awesome, an awesome idea, an awesome proposal, because I think anything that we can do to simplify starting a business in the city, as you referenced earlier, creates jobs. And according to the most recent U.S. Census data, which is dated over a decade ago, but that's what we've been able to dig up. It's probably been updated, hopefully. But there were over 62,000 small businesses in the city of Detroit. And if you let that sink in, if each one employed anywhere from 1 to 3 people, you're talking about 60 to nearly 200,000 jobs. And
Mhm.
so I get excited about this conversation because I know that a lot of people want to open up a business because small businesses are the economic backbone of the American economy and, of course, Detroit's economy as well. Yes, we love our big companies. Yeah, absolutely. We love the big three, the Detroit three, and everybody else is bringing jobs here. But again, anything that we can do to provide that level of support for those wanting to start a small business, I really think it's a wonderful idea. And I want to
Thank
thank
you.
you very much for joining me in the conference room this week. Anything that you want to say in closing as we go?
No, just super excited for this next phase of, making it easier. I am here to help for, any of your friends that want to call me Mark, have them call me. I will never say no to investment in the city of Detroit. So yeah, I'm just, super excited and I'm honored to serve, honestly, in this capacity.
Absolutely. That's so, man, Elias, I want to thank you very much for joining me in the conference room. For all of you tuning in, I want you to go out, make it a great day, make it a great week. We will check you out next time in the conference room with Mark Esley. And by the way, don't forget to subscribe to that YouTube channel. And once you go and check out these interviews. All right. Have a great day. We'll talk to you all soon. Bye bye.
Mhm.